Welcome. So this is the final assignment for this uh, Geometry A. Anyway, I'm excited to go over it with you. Um, Again, if there's any questions, give me a call, send me an email, come find me. I'll help you out with it as you need it. So in the first section, it says to find the value of x. Then we're going to need to use some of the relationships that we know about the triangles. That three sides of a triangle always add up to 180, or excuse me, three angles of a triangle always add up to 180 degrees. We need to understand some things about isosceles triangles. They have the two base angles are congruent. And remember some just basic facts about angles. Angles that are linear pair, that means that they make a straight line, add up to 180. Vertical angles are congruent, meaning they're straight across from each other. So with this information, and again, look through your notes on units 15 and 16 to help you with this section. So I'm going to go over all the answers, all the questions, and hopefully answer all the questions you might have. Great, so let's look at the first one. We're finding the value of x, so we're looking for x's value given this information. So looking at this picture, I can see that we have an isosceles triangle because two of the three sides are congruent. And so that tells me that the two base angles are congruent. So looking at this example, I know that my base angles are this angle here and this angle here because they're straight across from the congruent sides. So if I know those two angles are equal, and I know that the third angle is 180 degrees, so really is 90 degrees. So I know that 90 degrees plus two angles that are the same that I don't know, so that'd be 2 times them, will equal 180. Now you might be able to do this in your head without doing the algebra, and that's just fine. So I encourage you to do that. But this is the algebra behind it. So isolating the variable, I subtract 90 from both sides. And now it makes sense that these two angles have to add up to 90 degrees. And then I divide by 2. So each of those angles is 45 degrees. And luckily, that's what they're asking me to find, is what is the value of x. And it's 45. Great. So I'm going to use this idea of isosceles, I think, on most of these first few questions. So again, I notice on question number 2, I have the same scenario. I have an isosceles triangle, so I know that these two angles here are congruent. They're asking me to find one of those two, and so I'm going to use the same concept. I'm going to say this 120 plus 2 times the angle will equal 180. I'm going to subtract the 120 again. So now I have 2x equals 60. And divide both sides by 2. So I have a value x is 30 degrees. And that actually makes sense because 30 plus 30 is 60, 60 plus 120 is 180, so that meets the criteria of that triangle. All right, again, fantastic. It's an isosceles triangle, so we know the two base angles are congruent. So this angle, and even though they didn't tell me this angle, I know it's got the same value. So those two are 77, and I'm looking for the other. So I know that I have 2 times 77, because there's two 77s, and if you want to do that in your head, you can, plus the unknown angle will add up to this 180. Well, 2 times 77 is 154. I subtract that 154 because that removes it. That removes it from one side of the equation. I now have x equals 26. And that's my answer. So we're all done with that. So again, it's the algebra and it's the understanding the relationships of those triangles. Number 4 is almost the same question. Again, I have an isosceles triangle. I know that this angle and this angle are congruent, and I'm looking for x's value. So I know they're both 74. So I'm just going to do a little something in my head. 74 plus 74. Now, I don't know how you do it, but if I do it in my head, I do the easy part. 70 plus 70 is 140. 4 plus 4 is 8, so it's 148. So I'm going to kind of skip that step of writing 2 times 74. But I do know I need to add those two together, add the third angle, which is x, and that's going to equal my 180. So I subtract the 148. I'm going to come back up here. X equals, and you can use a calculator or you can just say, do it in your head, I don't care. As long as you get 32, and know if you don't get 32, why you didn't get 32. So it's just really important that we know how to follow that logic and we can duplicate it. Okay, great. So the last part of the section, this is dealing with, I'm guessing, unit 16 now. It says determine the two triangles if the two triangles are congruent. If they are, state how I know that they're congruent. Well, I know that they're congruent one of a number of different ways. I believe there's 5 ways to show congruencies. We know we have side-side-side congruency, side-angle-side congruency, angle-angle-side congruency, angle-side-angle congruency, and hypotenuse-leg. So know those, understand those, make sure we have those at least accessible, meaning you have your notes and know where to look for them, so that we can look at a problem like this and say, I wonder why these two angles or these two triangles are congruent. So let's look and see what we have. Now they've marked a couple of things that are important. So this angle and this angle are congruent. And then they mark a couple other things. They say that this side and this side are also congruent. And so we're going to need to figure out if there's any other information inside of this that we can conclude is also true. And I see vertical angles, so I see some angles that are straight across from each other. I see that this angle here and this angle here are also straight across from each other. And so now I'm looking at this and I can say, hey, this is good news now because I have 2 angles and a side, and I just need to determine, is this angle side or if this is angle side angle. And I want to show you a little trick on how I like to do this is when I say angle side angle, I'm saying there's an angle, there's a side between the next angle. So there'd be an angle, the side in between the 2 angles, and another angle. This is not the case here. So it's not going to be angle side angle. So it's going to be congruent because of angle side congruency. And again, I'm lazy and can use that little symbol to mean congruency. All right, looking at number 6. First thing that pops into my head is I see that right angle. Before I've even looked here, I've looked at that and I see that right angle and I go, boom, maybe this is hypotenuse leg because hypotenuse leg deals with right triangles. So I'm going to say, oh, maybe. And so then I look and say, do I know the hypotenuse? And straight across from the 90 degrees is this line from both of the triangles. So I can say in my head, I can feel pretty confident that, all right, we got a hypotenuse. And now if you look a little deeper, we also have a leg. And so I can say, yep, these are congruent because hypotenuse leg congruency. Good. So meaning okay, that makes sense. We're feeling pretty good. Again, the key piece was noticing the right angle and noticing we're probably going to be doing hypotenuse. Like, if you wanted to, it would be angle, side, side, and that's not one of our choices. So we can't use angle, side, side. That's another thing that would clue. All right, moving on to 7. Again, I see that right angle. Bing, bing, bing. I'm like, all right, this is probably going to be hypotenuse leg, except there's only one right angle. Except, if we look a little deeper, these are vertical angles. So actually, those are both right angles. So I'm thinking, I wonder if hypotenuse leg. Well, I have a hypotenuse equals another hypotenuse. That's a good sign. And the leg equals another leg. So yeah, I can say these are congruent because of hypotenuse leg congruency. Excellent. And I look at the last one and I see 2 triangles and I notice that they have, well, first they have an angle in common. They have a second angle in common. And now if you notice that they, oops, I'm sorry, I don't know what just happened there. And now if you notice that they also have a side in common. So I now say, does this have so I got 2 angles and a side, so it's either angle side angle or angle angle side. And now I ask myself the question, angle, is the side in between the 2 angles or is the side outside the 2 angles? And this is between the 2 angles. So I would say angle, side, angle, congruency. Great, so that finishes up our assignment 15 and 16. If you have any questions, you can send me an email, you're going to give me a phone call, you're going to come see me, and we're going to walk our way through it and talk ourselves until we get to a place where we understand. Anyway, congratulations, good job for finishing up the last assignment, and I look forward to seeing you and seeing your progress. Talk to you soon.